Hello and welcome to EGX Digital 2020. My name is Matt Morley. This is going to be a series of chats and an exploration into the importance of esports in education. Esports, if you're watching this, you probably already know what that means, whether that be from a casual perspective of playing against, whether that be friends or people you don't even know, or playing with friends, to doing it competitively, whether as a solo player or doing it with your team. Esports as an industry is absolutely huge and booming and growing exponentially as time goes on. Obviously, the money involved with it is phenomenal, whether that be through sponsorship or prize money, $3 million being given out for winners of Fortnite World Cups. And obviously that's internationally, but it applies to the UK as well. Only last year we had someone come second place and become a millionaire because of how well he and his teammate did in Fortnite. It's not necessarily the most obvious or easiest industry to get into, and as such people don't necessarily always know where to go or what's involved. Esports is phenomenal. It's so much more than just the gaming. You've got all of the events, you've got the team management, you've got sponsorship, you've got the marketing. But where can you go to find out about that? Fortunately, it's something that is now being recognised in an educational stance and an educational setup, and there are qualifications that you can do at college and at university that will help you and aid you with getting into that, and as well as developing many other skills as well. So this is going to be, like I say, a series of chats with some of my colleagues and people from outside organisations that are here to help kind of give guidance and give information about the benefits that esports brings to education. Enjoy. So I'm joined by
James Fraser-Murison.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And tell me a little bit about yourself, James.
So, as I say, my name is James. I'm the Director of Learning here at Queen Mary's College, and I have helped put together the first ever Esports BTEC in conjunction with the British Esports Association, and hopefully there's been a nice opportunity to kind of share Queen Mary's journey from start to where we are now.
So what inspired you to start that journey?
Well, to be honest, obviously you and I spend a lot of time in classroom with students, and we've watched student trends over the last couple of months and years kind of move to just watching, I don't know, various music videos and what have you on YouTube, to as and when they can sneakily going onto YouTube now or Twitch to watch sort of gamers game. We all know as well that gaming is a very popular area amongst all teenagers and people younger and older than that as well. So by having an initial chat with some of my classes, we kind of formed an initial discussion as to whether QMC would be interested in running an esports enrichment. We did that. We went down to the University of Chichester to see how they were doing it, because they were a university along with University of Staffordshire who were running an esports degree. So we spoke to them about advice and sort of the practical element about it, and then we ran, as I say, an esports enrichment from last September now, and it proved to be far above and beyond the most popular enrichment that we do here at college, to the point we had 55 students sign up.
Yeah. So
instantly we realised we were heading in the right direction, and that brought us a little bit of traction from the British Esports Association and also Pearson, who are the BTEC providers, about whether I'd be interested in maybe helping form the first ever Esports BTEC.
So, like you say, it stemmed from you observing students, like watching obviously online gaming, beyond sort of introducing it to perhaps appeal to and appease the students and be sort of like an area they're interested in. Why do you think it's important to kind of start merging esports and education together?
I think where possible, if you've got the option to merge something that's contemporary and interesting, and obviously with an educational element to it, I think all educational providers should be aiming to do that anyway. On top of that, particularly in light of the current pandemic, obviously, there's been an exponential growth of esporters. I think the industry is getting close to, if not even beyond this now, 1.2 billion. So again, within an educational perspective, this is something that people need to be aware of. And we're obviously very keen here at QMC to prepare students for opportunities and jobs that maybe don't even exist now, but will do in a few years' time, and also prepare them to be sort of digital proof for, again, a few years' time from now. And I think the esports BTEC encourages some of the finer elements and the better elements, if you will, from business, sport, media, and obviously, esports in itself, which is rather niche, we know that, to be able to put together this qualification that, as I say, is truly unique, never done before, but will give students an opportunity to get into the esports industry, whether that's within the degree or straight into the business side of things. That is a truly fascinating and really contemporary and exciting time for them as well. So that's the purpose.
Obviously, this is looking at esports as an industry. So what sort of areas, why, what will the students come away with?
I think what's really, really ingenious about this qualification, the British Esports Association and, as I say, Pearson got together with one or two other teachers and people within the esports industry, where we spoke to students and we spoke to other people who were running similar courses and similar units, as I say, in business or media, to put together this contemporary subject.
Okay.
And the idea is we are preparing them to go into an esports industry or business or media as examples, and we are preparing them to not game, but prepare them to be aware of their own branding, putting on and staging their own esports events if they so wish, mental and physical well-being now, which is a huge thing anyway, obviously, but something that we've got to put on within the course itself, so we can fight the stigma of it just being about students gaming in the dark. It's important that we cover, as I say, screen time and posture and dealing with the physical and the mental well-being, as I say, within that sphere. You look at units to do with the introduction of it as well, and how they can get noticed in a very popular and increasingly so arena in industry on top of that. So we cover an awful lot of the business fundamentals. Yes, there will be elements within the course where they will be gaming. Yeah, we understand that. Of course there are. There's film studies, there are things where you watch films, and the sport isn't just playing sport, but actually the thing that really makes the qualification stand out is the underpinning industry and the theory underneath that. And we know that there will be people who will raise eyebrows over this course. Of course they will, as they do with various other subjects, pretty much since time began. But what I think we managed to put together and we will be able to demonstrate is that what we are preparing students for is for a wider world out there that they're probably more aware of than arguably parents or other people of that ilk. But because they don't know or they're not aware of it, doesn't mean we shouldn't be raising the awareness of it.
Obviously, esports as a title sounds quite niche. I think, and like you say, there is a stigma around it. There is the idea to people that perhaps don't think of the industry as a broader topic, that it is just going to be sort of all about learning how to play a video game, and then for your sort of 5 hours, 15 hours a week, go home, continue playing games and sitting in the dark. And obviously I think it's fantastic that it looks at not only how they can improve and sort of work within the industry beyond the gaming spectrum, but like you say, it also sort of looks at helping kind of the mental and the physical health of the students. Can you give me a little bit more information about that? How are we sort of looking to implement that?
There's an awful lot of science out there and studies that have revealed that within the esport fraternity and industry and those that game, there's obvious increase of communication and team building skills, logical kind of thinking and problem solving on top of that, and actually a community that comes from that, which those possibly who don't know an awful lot about it or finding out about it might think it's ironic that you're plugged into a machine and you're improving your communications skills. But if you think about what's involved in that, actually you're multitasking and you've got various kind of dialogue taking place with various people up and down the country or globally. to kind of reach a common goal. And so in that respect, that's where obviously the sports bit it comes from. There's quite a huge tie-in these days with STEM subjects as well, because of, again, the process and the logistics that come with that. And I think as the months and the years tick by with this, you're going to see an increase with that as well. Qualification itself is sort of UCAS ready and has been recognised in the latest government report for digital and culture, so they're well aware of it as well. And at the moment within this country, esports is kind of keeping the UK kind of floating at this precise moment, along with the traditional media and film disciplines. The gaming community, as I say, in the UK is huge and is proving to be incredibly popular, with great dividends about the financial implications of, as I say, keeping the businesses and industries going, which is why it's important to recognise these things. Esports isn't going to go away anytime soon.
No.
And to be able to kind of ride that wave within education, I think is a really important thing to do, and it's come at a really vital time, I think, as well.
How do you see that developing? How do you see that growing? And how is it helping the economy as such? What sort of job roles are the students likely to be able to approach?
We're very fortunate here at Queen Mary's College that this has taken a lot of months in the making to kind of get us this far. But in doing so, we managed to secure some really good partnerships and sponsorships with HyperX, Belong Arenas, a company called Seed Learning, and HP as examples. And the fact that all of those people are on board, that shows, as I say, that we're heading in the right direction. In terms of what we're preparing students for, there's new job titles and roles with things like shoutcasting, and for those who don't know what that is in essence sort of presenting and commentating on gameplay. And that is a huge industry, and the very best people who do that have got followers in the millions and are in huge demand because it's a skill and a talent that they have. But on top of that, you've got the usual sort of video editing and social profiling, and those that want to sort of do stage management and planning events, and being able to run your own business on top of that. And what I have to say to parents as well is that if you look at the BTEC specification for esports, sometimes it's easier to get your head around almost replacing the word esports entirely and putting the word business there instead.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden things will sort of be a little bit clearer for you in terms of, again, how you go about planning and creating. And COVID's going to change a lot of things, as we well know, and moving to a more secure digital arena on top of that is asking more of these students to come to the fore who have got these skills and need to know the sort of underpinning knowledge and theory behind that to make a career of it, if they so wish. If they don't, that's fine. They've still got the opportunity to go into a more traditional business role or media role or what have you, and that's absolutely fine. And a lot of those things are linked as well. And the majority of our students, both here and up and down the country, will go into those more traditional roles for now. And it's just great that this subject will give them kind of a bigger skill set and portfolio for them to go on and do those things if they wish.
Yeah, I think it's a sort of perhaps a good almost reversal of obviously the people that work in the esports industry now are going to have come from probably traditional jobs, traditional sort of education and qualifications, and they've applied that into an esports aspect, whereas we're taking the sort of the esports industry and from that showing and developing the skills that they can use in that esports industry, but elsewhere as well.
100% you're dealing with 80-90% transferable skills. We are not saying that if you do this esports qualification with us, you can only do an esports job. That's absolutely not what we're saying. What we're saying is that we've upskilled you and sort of hopefully digital proofed you to a certain degree to go and look more in detail on this brand new sort of industry that we're becoming more aware of with each passing week. If you want, you certainly don't have to. But I think what we are legitimately doing, as I've said before, is we are preparing them now for a brand new world with jobs that may not even exist now further down the line. And I think regardless of what your role is within education, that has to be a part of it, as I say. And I think that's what we're doing, and I think that will prove to be a very popular decision, as I say, hopefully in a few weeks and a few months' time.
Hopefully, indeed.
Yeah, that's it.
So again, looping back to something you mentioned earlier, you mentioned that the qualification was UCAS ready.
Yep.
Obviously, there's a chance that people that are watching this don't necessarily know quite what that means or what benefit that brings. Can you go into a little bit more detail there?
Yeah, so those students who are interested in going to university, then you have to effectively hit a certain amount of what's called UCAS points and tariffs. And so what the BTEC in esports has done and secured very quickly was to make sure that this BTEC is in line with all the other vocational subjects and A levels. So if you're doing a single BTEC, it'll be the equivalent of one A level. If you're doing, say, the full qualification, the extended diploma, that will be the equivalent of 3 A levels, and the points that you would get traditionally are the same points. So it's recognised within university and in employers and apprenticeships and what have you. And of course, it wouldn't have been done a year ago because we didn't have that recognition. We were building this subject. So again, as I say, the fact that it's recognised at university, the fact that there's degrees out there, the fact that, as I say, the government is pushing this heavily, shows that we are in the right place to be pushing this. We're heading in the right direction, and it's important that we got the right support in place on top of that as well. And it will be laughed at, I understand that, by certain people, but it's probably the people in the nicest possible way who haven't done their own research on it yet, or will dismiss it outright. And I think once they kind of look at it clearly, that they'll see that there's a lot of weight behind this.
What difficulties have you found in sort of bringing this to fruition? What hurdles have you had to sort of hop over? What walls have sort of just been plopped in your way?
I think I'm very fortunate that the principal here at QMC has effectively greenlit this from day one, and I think that's because she's very savvy and understands that. What really helped was the gentleman Morley who won the Fortnite tournament a year or so ago, because that made BBC News headlines and whatever. As I say, our principal and various other kind of CMT members know that this is a thing and it's growing because, as I say, it's getting more national and global recognition. And once it was having input from Pearson, then obviously why wouldn't you take more notice of it? We've had 6-7 months of 50-60 students trial it, inverted commas, with the enrichment. So again, that's kind of added to it. The biggest hurdle at the moment, I would say, and not at all unsurprisingly, is parents. Because as someone who sort of stopped teaching English to teach media a long time ago, I spent a lot of my time at parents even going, this is why media is important, this is why film's important, and obviously now I'm spending a little bit more time going, this is why esports is important. And I think it's once you have those sensible conversations, then I think you can logically see where the potential is for this further down the line. Equally, I understand that parents don't always have the time to look at these things, and they are worried that their son or daughter spends 10 hours at home doing it, and they're going to come to college and spend another 5 hours, 10 hours, 15 hours a week gaming. And obviously, it's our job to dispel that. As I say, fortunate to have some really good sponsors and partners on board, but it's very difficult to get any type of money anywhere within education. And we're fortunate to have wonderful sort of PCs set up and good to go from HP, and therefore it's making sure you've got the right infrastructures on board so you can kind of deliver what you promise. So you need those exciting conversations with the head of IT. Thankfully, he was on board as well, which always helps. So I think it's keeping the dialogue open and the communication open with both parents and the powers that be. And we launched this course at the start of this year, and I did an online seminar for parents and what have you. I think we had 45 people, sort of potential parents and students turn up to watch that. So again, it was sort of allaying fears and reassuring them. And it's not everyone's cup of tea, but neither's English literature or physics or French. And if that's not your thing, you don't have to do it.
That's very true. So you mentioned obviously the ability that you've been able to work with local companies.
Mm-hmm.
How has that benefited the course qualification? How will that benefit the students going forward?
So again, having kind of various industry members on board already is because they've seen the importance. So they want to offer really unique bespoke work experience opportunities. So naturally, they want to take our very best students because they might end up working for those companies in 2 years' time. So why wouldn't you want to be a part of this? And again, businesses involved are savvy enough to see the profit margins of anything involving esports as well. So that they can do that with a college they can trust with us, with the students that they'll help mentor and what have you, then for them it's a no-brainer. We're really lucky as well that we've put together a scholarship program for non-male and BAME students to encourage them as well to kind of get a part of this esports industry, because we're aware that, again, from people looking inside, it's a predominantly male industry, or could be seen as a predominantly male qualification, and we want to dispel that. We want to encourage anyone and everyone to get involved within this industry, and having the backing of Belong and HP and whatever, that's only going to help us, and it's only going to kind of grow the interest and the passion from people who aren't aware of it, but again can see its importance. Yeah. So, I make no bones about the fact we want to be the leading provider of esports in the South, and I think we're set up to do that. And I think we haven't got a local estate agents, and we haven't got a local kebab shop behind us. We've got Belong, we've got HP, we've got some serious heavy hitters, and that's because they can see the importance of it. People can go and work in graphic design and promotion and social media expertise with an esports qualification. It doesn't mean you just game. It's far, far from that at all. This just kind of helps push that along if they so wish. So, as I say, I think we've got some really good opportunities coming our way within education. I think we've got the right people involved, and I think this will only grow and grow to be both popular and relevant. And if that's not the point of education, then what is?
Very true. I think it's important. Like I say, we just need to make sure we're raising the awareness to people that perhaps aren't necessarily on board or just aren't aware of the benefits of sort of a course in esports and the skills that the students can learn. So, James, if people want to get in contact with you, if they want to sort of find out any further information about studying at QMC, about the qualification at hand, where can they go? Who should they see?
I think if you type in my ridiculously long surname at James Fraser Murison, you'll find probably various videos now.
We'll bring that up on the screen.
Yeah, it's probably
that's floating around about this area.
But you can find me on the Queen Mary's College website for various kind of course details, and you can find me on Twitter at Fraser Esports for any kind of help or queries that you may have.
Awesome, thank you very much. And that QMC website was qmc.ac.uk.
That's the one.
There we go. And they'll be happy to help you out with any questions or queries you may possibly have. I think we've covered everything we need to.
I think so. I really enjoyed that.
Excellent. It was good.
Thank you very much,
James.
Cheers, Matt.
Right.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Oscar, and I'm an Esports Partnerships Manager at Belong Gaming Arenas. It's been great to be down here at Queen Mary's College today, just to see the setup that they have here. It's great to see that universities and colleges are now pursuing much more into esports education. When you can have a BTEC degree here, you open up the talent pool of people that the esports industry can choose from, and it's obviously good to showcase that there's many pathways to esports, and it's not just about playing games every day. And we want to get rid of the stigma around the typical gamer, and that there's much more to it than just playing all night.
And now to talk about the esports qualification from a slightly different perspective, we have Natasha.
Hello.
Hello, Tash. Thanks for joining me.
You're welcome.
Here in our esports room.
No problem.
So, tell me a bit about yourself.
So I'm Tash.
Excellent.
Obviously, I teach media.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to be embarking upon esports BTEC. Fabulous.
From the board.
Thank you. I've studied media almost the whole of my life. I studied at university, did film studies, all of that kind of stuff. Always been quite interested in it.
Okay.
From both a teacher perspective and a student perspective.
Yeah. So, what's led you to the esports qualification, to be an esports teacher?
Well, first of all, I was actually going to stray away from it because I was very sceptical at first about the term esports.
Can I ask why?
Just more because the term esports was so new, I think the definition of it was skewed a little bit. So I think when it was kind of presented to me, just by a range of different people, in terms of like, you know, the actual what the definition of esports is, it was just, oh, it's just gaming.
Okay.
And because I've never been a gamer, so I've never done it for hobbies or anything like that. I have gamed, but I've never been a gamer, if that makes sense. I kind of just felt like, oh, a whole kind of like, you know, qualification, a whole course just for that. How, you know, what exactly is it going to entail? And I wasn't really too sure about it. But then, so, you know, when I've learned a little bit more, obviously done a little bit more research, had more conversations, spoken to more organisations, etc., you kind of see there's actually it's a really huge industry, and it slots almost right into the middle of a media studies qualification for starters, which is why it can also have its own kind of course, which is why we do have the own course. And, you know, there's a lot more kind of like, there's a lot more angles to it, there's a lot more perspectives, there's a lot more meat, if you like, to just the gaming.
One way to describe it.
Yeah, if you like. It's, you know, there's a lot more substance to it. And that is the bit that started interesting me. And then also, so first of all, there was my skepticism, and then I, you know, wanted to know more. Now that I know more, I'm interested. And then I see there's not a lot of women around. You don't really see a lot of women. You don't really see even a lot of women from the BAME community.
Especially, obviously, that's kind of sort of finiting down that kind of...
Exactly, and I obviously tick those two boxes, and it's just like, okay, this maybe is something that we can do. And also, having taught media before, you know, quite a lot of times you are starting to get a lot more females who want to game, and they're just not too confident to be involved too much because they feel it's quite male dominated. So it's kind of like, you know, if I'm interested in doing it and I'm interested in teaching it and I'm interested in kind of being part of it, maybe that might encourage a few more, you know, girls to come on board, to kind of like, you know, find their place in that industry as well. But it's ever growing as well. This is what I like. It's quite, I mean, media is quite ever evolving anyway, but this industry in itself seems to be so fast paced.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing actually how much you can do within that industry, and it doesn't matter your skill set. So even if you're not a natural gamer, you can still, you know, progress really well within that industry, which is what I quite like.
So if I look back to kind of something you were saying at the beginning, you're skeptical, you're not necessarily a gamer yourself. I think that's arguably a huge example of why I think the qualification is so important, because it's about learning those skills that aren't necessarily gaming.
Yeah.
Like that's what the enrichment would be for. So coming along and sort of partaking in the team games.
Exactly, yeah.
The unit is all about learning the kind of the media aspects and the business skills and those elements, which I think if you can see how that fits into the esports environment without even having to be a gamer, I think you can sort of perhaps be almost like a prime voice for sort of making people realise that it isn't just about the gaming.
Exactly. I mean, because I think having spoken to a few girls about it, they have initially it'll be like, oh, I don't want to just do gaming, like I'm not just 100% really just a gamer, you know, I might like the odd game or two or whatever. And then when you kind of explain it to them, they then get a little bit excited, because then they start thinking about things like, oh, campaigns, oh, marketing for gaming, oh, actually I'm really good at design, or I'm really good at creating characters or storylines, or, you know, I'm really good at editing, so they might want to, you know, edit, you know, some type of some gameplay or something like that. And then all of a sudden the conversation changes and their mindset changes, and like you said, even though they don't have those kind of like those gaming skills, they do have other skills and other interests that will enable them to, you know, do quite well actually on a course like that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's the thing. And if you look at the statistics, the split between male and female is pretty much 50-50, like, of people that play games claim to be gamers.
Yeah.
But if you look at the numbers of people that are kind of front and centre, it's not reflective of that.
No.
And again, like the numbers between sort of white and BAME, it's relatively similar, but again, the faces that you see are not.
Yes.
And I think, and I appreciate I'm a white male sort of sat here talking about it, so I don't know if hopefully I'm a good voice for what I'm trying to say. I think you need for it to not just be people like me sort of saying it's a good thing and you should be doing it, because you want to encourage anyone and everyone.
Exactly. But in general, I mean, it would be nice to see as well up and down the country, like whoever else is running this course, and kind of seeing, you know, are they doing something quite similar? You know, are there people who maybe look like me, or who are, you know, whatever, you know, like basically who are also teaching this? Because I think that part is really, really important, especially in the time that we're in as well. The world is changing. People are really kind of like, there's like, you know, things we've got a lot of things with identity and in the country, and I think it's really good that, you know, there are people out there who are teaching courses like this, who are representative of almost everybody out there who are not too sure about their own identity. You know, and you can look and you can say, oh, okay, you know, I'm a mixed race girl and I really like gaming. There's a mixed race teacher there who's doing this, or do you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And I just think it's really important, I think, to kind of push yourself in that type of role. And I'd like to say that I'm one of those people who like to push myself in that role, so which is another reason, obviously, why I'm also wanting to do this course. Because I think you mentioned earlier about raising this type of awareness, and I'm all for raising awareness all the time, you know. And the best platform we have is as a teacher. So,
Yeah, no,
you know, use our skills to the full extent, basically.
And I think as a teacher, on a subject that allows for interaction kind of worldwide. And obviously I think the other important thing is, because we've got to be mindful of things like bullying online. Right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like that is still a huge issue. Right?
Yes.
And it's I don't know if it's necessarily getting any better, and that only comes from typically ignorance. Like there's videos of girl gamers, female gamers getting picked on just because they're girls.
Yeah.
And the same, and like the racism that sort of shows its face. And again, like these people might not be conscious about it like on a day-to-day basis, but they think they can kind of get into a place where they're not going to be identified, or they're not going to, if they don't see the sort of the spectrum of people as kind of it being like, oh, everyone plays games, people that, whatever your race, whatever your gender, like that shouldn't be something that I use against people that aren't me.
Yeah.
And I think even if we're in a position where we're just changing the sort of opinions of people, or reinforcing the right sort of approach in the group of students, I think it's really important.
Absolutely. It makes those students feel so comfortable, and more confident as well.
Yeah.
And then obviously if they are faced with that kind of bullying online, because of that confidence, it allows them to kind of confront it in the way that they need to for themselves, so that it doesn't kind of like, you know, have a negative impact on themselves as an e-sporter.
Yeah,
as well. Yeah.
Like these things should never be stuff that kind of hamper someone getting a career,
Exactly.
following like a passion. Like we should remove as many of these blocks as possible,
Of
rather
course.
than sort of put them back in. I think that might be everything we need to go through. Anything else you want to bring to the table?
No,
Okay.
just bring on Fall Guys.
Yeah, Fall Guys. Hopefully this doesn't now age like milk, and all of a sudden, like 3 months down the line, no one's playing it anymore. But I can't see that being the case, because it's phenomenal.
No.
So, Tash, if people want to find out more about you as a teacher, as an esports teacher, media teacher, have you got any sort of social media handles they can find you at, follow you on?
I do. Okay, so at the media teacher on Instagram.
Perfect. And obviously you'll be able to follow Tasha's adventures as a media teacher and an esports teacher.
Yeah, should be able to find my Twitter handle on that as well.
Cool. Thank you very much, Tash, and
Thank you
very much for watching, guys. Like I say, my name is Matt Morley. You can find my stuff probably here, maybe. I'll let my technician help sort that out. Otherwise, we've been here at QMC Been fantastic having you watching. Enjoy the rest of the show.